So welcome, Lyn, and thanks for agreeing to participate in this interview series that I'm doing about distance kinesiology.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, telling people where you live and a little bit about what you do.
Oh, okay. Hi. I live in Bendigo at the moment. I've been here 4 years, which is a lovely regional big city of Victoria. Lovely spot. I live on quite a big block of land, sort of nearly an acre. And I mean, from a home point of view, I'm really into growing organic veggies. I've got a fantastic garden that I grow. We're solar powered. It's just a really nice spot. But my business has always been based around art. And my current favourite thing is clay. So I work in ceramics and clay.
Beautiful. Gorgeous. And you're selling your work, right, as well?
Yes, yeah. For many years, I've exhibited and sold, but I used to focus very much so on painting, drawing, mosaics, textiles, all that sort of thing. And clay was always, it's a very intense subject. It's one of those open-ended, you will never learn it all type subjects. And I always put it in the too hard box. And I actually had to leave work in 2008, which is part of the story of the kinesiology. And I thought, well, if I'm leaving work, I was bored, I need something to do. So I actually spent 5 years at uni and did my bachelor degree with honours on clay.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
So now I make and sell ceramics.
Okay, and so tell me, I believe that's correct that you've had kinesiology, before we started working together.
Very, very much, yeah. Particularly in, I would say, from about the mid-70s all the way through to early 90s, a lot.
Wow, that's a great history. So you've been around experiencing kinesiology from quite a long part of its history.
Yes, and it was amazing because I was working for a naturopath at the time, and he did his training in kinesiology, and being his secretary, I was his little practice person, which was fantastic. And I had my first 2 or 3 children while I was seeing him. So they all grew up with kinesiology as well.
Amazing. And so can you tell me, what was it that brought you to start working with me and via distance? Because that was, I'm in Melbourne, you're in Bendigo. So what was it that brought you to trying some sessions with me?
Yeah, well, I think we're actually about 3.5 hours car drive away from one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you don't mind me going into a little of the backstory, in that, 70s right up until 2000, I was, working very much with alternative healing, very in-depth with it. I had a business myself teaching vegetarian cooking, all sorts of things, and was immersed in it. And I had a marriage breakdown and I fell off the rails emotionally. And I would say 2002, looking back, I injured my lower back, and it was at work at the time. Now, looking back retrospectively, I'm very much of the belief that it was tied in with the fear of lack as being a single mum, and it's lower back, which is all in that zone.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because it happened at work, I got swept into the work cover system, which is a freaking nightmare. So right up until maybe 2 years ago, there was just court cases and fighting and all sorts of guff. And one day, about 18 months ago, I just spat the dummy and said, this is ridiculous. Like, we are fighting for something that I really don't care about the money side of it, but we were fighting about pharmaceuticals and the types of treatments that I wanted to use, and they don't approve them. So I just turned around and said to my partner, I want to go back to what I know. I want to go back and find a kinesiologist, because kinesiology just was the best for 15 years. love it. I could tell you so many stories about kinesiology and my kids. But, yeah, so he was on board and said, right, go for it. And I've only been living here for 4 years. So I did a bit of a search around here with no luck. And I actually found you on Facebook.
Yes.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the connection's via the conference, I think. But anyway, I found your Facebook group, so I sort of stalked you for 2 months.
In the most nice, pleasant, beautiful way.
Absolutely, in a very loving way. I watched the way that you communicated with everybody and how you held the group together, and my intuition just told me that you were it. Like, I needed to connect with you. And then when I did connect with you, I was praying to goodness that I didn't have to drive down, because at that stage, when I first saw you, a 3.5-hour car trip is enough to send me into a pain fog for 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
And I've lived with that for 10 years. And I was like, oh, please tell me she lives somewhere close. And you said, St Kilda. And I was like, oh, no. But then you suggested Skype, which I've never done kinesiology over distance before. So jumped in and embraced it, and it's been amazing. Amazing.
So, because I think it was, you said it was only even after the first 3 sessions that you noticed quite a lot of difference for yourself. So you want to maybe explain a little bit about what things were like at the beginning for you, and then after those 3 sessions, how you were feeling?
In the beginning, when I first saw you, and you would remember this, I was in a lot of pain, and I think we spoke for an hour. I think I had an hour the first time we were together, and I was exhausted at the end of it. But in 24 hours, my energy level shifted enough for me to notice. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough for me to go, hey, wow, like, I just feel... It's hard to describe. I felt lighter. I felt less weighed down with, this whole journey of having this issue. Yeah. And the second visit, it was just this little shift again. But the third visit was just whammo, a huge change.
So what were some of the changes for you?
I wish I had it. I'm going to start crying. I wish I had it. I can feel the tears. Sorry. I wish I had it done it 5 years ago. My pain levels are unbelievably the way they've dropped. They have just dropped. I was just constantly on an 8 to 12 out of 10 zone. Anybody I spoke to when they said it, because that's the first thing they ask you, rate your pain out of 10. And it was always 8 to 12. It was just, it never left me. My whole house is full of disability aids that match somebody in their 80s or 90s. And I would, I've got motorised scooters and all sorts of bits and pieces. So I was in a pretty bad way. And I would honestly say, with hand on heart, because I can't remember when we spoke last, but it would definitely be more than a month ago. And I have consistently in that month been down around 4 to 5 out of 10, which is like incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between manageable and completely...
I can manage that.
Unmanageable.
I can manage. Yeah. I used to say to videos, if you can get me down to a 6 or a 7, I can deal with that. But I've way surpassed that.
I think I might cry too. That's so beautiful.
It's really powerful. Really powerful.
Yeah. And so that's huge. I feel like I just want to sit with that for a moment, because I remember that you wrote something in the Facebook group, and as I was saying to another lady that I've been doing an interview with, another client, often people have kinesiology sessions and I might see the difference in them, but I don't hear all of the backstory. And so to hear some of that backstory, it's just like, wow, that's an incredible change. Yeah. And
I've never discussed the backstory.
Yeah.
Like, the picture.
Yeah, it completely blows me away. I find that so moving and amazing to understand the impact of the work beyond just, wow, you look better and you've got more energy, because I certainly noticed over the time that you were looking brighter and happier, all of those sorts of things. But yeah, I didn't know all of the pain level backstory to that degree.
Oh, the backstory. I could actually bore you for 4 hours on the backstory.
Yeah, because I think even when we were going through your health history, that we didn't really talk about it in that level of detail. We talked about the chronic pain, but not the,
not the why or how.
Yeah. So that's huge. And so is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to share around differences in how things have been for you?
I feel like I've got a very connected life to the earth. Like, I'm a very private person. I don't go out very much. I'm very connected to the land that I'm on. My kids have grown up, if they see me grumpy, they always say, can you go and dig outside? Because that always cheers you up. Like, that is just my way of living. So I live a really quiet sort of pace. But I feel way more grounded since I've had the consultations with you, like extremely so, because the bouncing around from practitioners and hospitals and pain management clinics and solicitors, and there was a couple of years there where I just felt like my mind was off with the pixies. It just makes you so disconnected. And since the kinesiology treatments, I've just found that I'm way more settled. My partner says he hasn't seen me smile like this for years. And that's huge.
Yeah, that makes a big difference in, your relationships and...
Oh, massive, yeah. And the other thing is, I'm comparing energy levels to physically what I do. So physically, going back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I was actually a personal fitness instructor, believe it or not, on stage. So I was really fit, worked in the garden like every day for hours on end. So a very fit person. So I fought a lot emotionally with the loss of that. But since the kinesiology sessions, I have, because I'm going backwards a bit. If you go back to pain management, they put you on a pacing system.
Yeah.
So it's like 15 minutes of sitting, 15 minutes of standing, 15 minutes of walking, and you do that constantly to keep in control. Well, last Sunday, I did 3 hours in the garden, and Phil's my partner, kept going, should you be stopping? Should you be sitting down? I mean, I'm just, the joy's back.
The joy's back. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that, even just having that general default feeling in your life is such a big difference.
Absolutely. It's huge, Amanda. Yeah, huge.
Wow. And so we've had quite a few really interesting conversations about all sorts of things energetically, and so that's been quite interesting. And then we even had a really interesting one for not just you, but it was like a message for your whole family. Remember that one? And
that whole time, sorry for interrupting, but it just triggered memory.
Yeah, sure.
My eldest daughter, who has obviously been treated in utero via kinesiology, and was all the way up to about an 8-year-old, her eldest boy's on the autism spectrum. Now, not long after I saw you for the first time, I said to her, I feel as if my body's gone, hey, I remember this. We did this a while back. This is really cool. Let's do it again. And she laughed at me, and I said, your body's the same. So she took herself and him to a local kinesiologist, and she now goes every 4 weeks.
Oh, how fantastic.
It's just a really fantastic system. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we use a way of tapping into the body and working with the body and the body's energy systems to say, well, what's really going on and what is it that you need in order to feel better? And then the body gives those indications and away we go.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
And so, it can be quite a confusing thing for people to think, well, how could kinesiology work by a distance when you're not physically there touching the person? So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you care if you know how it works or not? Or have you got thoughts on how it works?
When I was doing it, there was a thing called surrogate balancing, which you would be aware of.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
Yep.
Which is where I would get say my daughter would get a balance, but she was 4 months old and couldn't do things. So he'd be working on my body for her, is what I mean. Yep. So I was very familiar with surrogate balancing, but I was still like, over Skype, like over distance, is that possible? And I did doubt it. So even with the background of having it, I was like, but I thought, what can happen? I can give it a shot and I can see what happens. Yeah. And I saw a difference in that first session that has made me want to do it more, as you know. So I think it's just as effective, as in person.
That's actually one of my theories, is that because we're working just directly energy to energy, and so sometimes that's almost like a clearer connection for doing the work, which is amazing. But
I could imagine, though, if you had clients who weren't familiar with it, though, it could be challenging to explain.
Yeah, even for some other kinesiologists who, are a bit more old school, they might be like, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
if they're not, if they don't work with technology in that way, then it can be a bit like, are you sure?
Well, I've had the most powerful sessions with you, and they've all been over Skype. So I definitely am over the moon with it.
Yeah, we've been able to target in on some really important information and really important issues that have showed up that you're like, what? I was just thinking about that.
I know. You pushed a few buttons that I did not even realise. Do you remember the one about when my mum was pregnant with me? I nearly fell off my chair. Like, you've said some things that were just like, whoa, where'd that come from? Just being some really strong message.
Yeah, I can't say that I always remember everything that happens in sessions, because that's a lot of details of different people's lives.
It's a heck of a lot.
But sometimes I remember things. I remember little bits of the stories. But yes, I do remember there was something about in utero issues, which, that does show up a lot for people. And, it can be like, well, how could I still be holding on to that after however many decades I've been alive? But, then the story is still playing out in your life, right? Like the relevant information.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So is there anything else you would like to share with people about your experiences with distance kinesiology, or anything else just at all that you'd like to say?
No, we've probably covered it, with what we've talked about. I wouldn't be sitting here unless I highly, highly recommended it. I really do. It's been a fantastic experience, and I've got a lot from it. And I intend to continue to use it as a tool too. It's just, I'm more than happy with it.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much for sharing. I should tell people that Lyn hadn't quite read my email where I was asking about her clients to do these sessions, and so she hadn't quite worked out that I intended to record them, but then she's very bravely stepped in and allowed me to record this. So.
Once they do that, I'm quite happy to.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that, and really appreciate your time.